Guys being dudes.
Guys being dudes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's the mood, dude?
I started.
Oh, we started. Okay. We're not live. Usually the first thing I'll say is, okay, we're live, but we're not. So this is pre-recorded.
We're not live.
Doesn't have the same ring to it.
So I want to just start off. Today's going to be a different kind of podcast. We're used to being in here, and we have a lot of fun, and it's normally very MMA centric and based, and that's all fine and good. This is a little bit different today because parents like you probably don't want your kids watching this podcast. It could get uncomfortable at times for kids. It could also be something that you may want to show to kids later when it is age appropriate. I think there is a lot of things that are learnable and teachable lessons, and that's kind of the reason I think we're doing this. So not trying to be, what is it, cryptic or anything like that. But this is a different kind of podcast. And we wanted, so the situation that this is all revolving around, was known, but to me and to publicly, but the people involved weren't known. The victims weren't known. And I never assumed anything. And when that became known to me through you shared a post, it was very much, it touched me. I think it touched a lot of people. And so at that point, you and I are friends with each other. And I just said, hey, if you ever want to share your story, you're more than welcome to. And that was probably, how long ago was that post? A year?
December. So
okay,
almost a year.
Almost a year.
Wow.
And if you could do a good job of trying to stay by the
I
mic.
know it's Karli Jo. You've done this now, what, 2 or 3 times, I think. So
5 times.
yeah. Now get right up on it.
But I think you hit up Hunter last week.
Yeah.
And you said, I want to do this now.
Yeah.
And so we just wanted to provide the platform, and neither Hunter. So first of all, I want to set some ground rules. Neither Hunter or I have ever interviewed or talked with someone who has gone through the situation that you've gone through. And so if at any point we come across as insensitive or intrusive or anything like that, that's not our intent. I'm telling this publicly, that. Mm-hmm. And 2, we want you to be able to share your story. That's the goal of this. And the secondary goal of this is to be able for other people to be able to that have dealt with a similar situation, and also to maybe prevent or be able to position others to not go through these kind of situations, or to recognize the things that are identifiable in those situations. So just wanted to kind of share that to get started and go from there.
Yeah. And to Karli's credit, kind of what you were just talking about, Ryan, she said, by the way, you guys can ask me anything. There's nothing off limits. I'm ready to talk about everything that happened. So a lot of people watching maybe know what we're talking about, just given the context of everything, but I bet a lot don't as well. So I guess we should probably start there. You, like Ryan said, you made that Facebook post. That was the first time I'd seen you address it publicly. Was it the first time you addressed the situation publicly?
No. So kind of when depends on, I guess, how you would look at what you define as publicly. And did I personally come out and say right on social media, right out of the gate? No, definitely not. It was a little bit of time down the road. I know whenever it wasn't made public through news articles and stuff, when everything kind of went down with that, it was very public. Obviously my name wasn't there, but I shared the articles. I wasn't really scared at that moment to like say, you know, that I wasn't like, you know, this is part of my, I guess, journey. Like I'm gonna have to face this at some point, and I think it's necessary to face it. So I was slightly like public about it, you know, in the past. Been a little bit more silent about it more recently, but I've had some change in like my heart about some stuff, and that's kind of why I'm like, it's time to be public about it and talk about it like often.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's incredible that you're stepping up to do that for
Yeah.
sure. And obviously, you say you have a change of heart, so we got to ask, like, what caused? Did it just come out of nowhere? Did something spur it?
Yeah, so I feel like I should probably like kind of explain what
Yeah,
happened,
let's
what happened to
assume
me.
people don't know anything about it.
So when I was about 12 years old, I started training mixed martial arts. I started training mixed martial arts when I was 10, and ended up going to a new gym eventually when I was about 12 years old. And at this gym, there was a coach who thought, you know, when I first started training there, was a great person, you know, saw a lot of potential in me, put a lot of time into me, you know, my first few years there. And it was about almost 2 years later when, you know, things kind of like shifted from just like being a really good coach to kind of being a little bit too personable, I guess you would say, like a little bit just curious about what I was doing in my free time, contacting me like outside of the gym about stuff that wasn't relative to the gym. And kind of, I guess, long story short, those kind of conversations led to just like more personal stuff that, you know, a guy that's what 45 50 years old, you know, shouldn't be asking a 13 14-year-old girl. So I guess basically like after some time and like building that trust and like this really kind of awkward and uncomfortable, I guess, relationship that I didn't really understand because I was so young, and I viewed it as like, this person's my friend, like he's looking out for me, he wants what's best for me, like he's just trying to get to know me better because he wants to, you know, help me in my career and reach my goals. Because, you know, since I was, you know, 12, I was told, oh, you can be in the UFC and you can be a world champion. You can do this, you can do that. So like instilling that in me at that age, and just, you know, going from that to what it turned into was like a very, very, very slow process. And of like that trust was grown so much at the point things took a turn. There was like no, in my head at that time, there was like no way out of this. Like it was kind of like, oh, this is what's happening now. And now I was like, you know, but
Are you referring to the beginning of
yes.
okay.
Yes, because like, you know, obviously as time went on, things went from just like simple text messages and like conversations that weren't appropriate between a grown man and a young girl to like physical things, like sexual things. Like he molested me for, I mean, from like 13, 14 to like 17 years old. So yeah, it went from, you know, I was a young kid that just trusted this guy to, it was a lot of things that went on that I'm sure we'll probably get into maybe later on. But that's kind of like, you know, that's what happened. I was molested for a lot of years. Then I guess what was the starting question? Because I know
I don't know.
We'll just roll with it.
Yeah,
We'll just roll with it.
I kind of got off track.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's just we just wanted to establish like what happened so people
Sure.
understand. Like I'm not sitting here like, you know, saying stuff and not really addressing what was the situation.
For sure.
So the news rocked the MMA world in Western Pennsylvania in I'm going on memory here. I think it was 2018 is when it came out.
Yes.
And it was Uniontown Fight Club.
Yes.
It was the gym owner down there at the time. It's no longer Uniontown Fight Club. It's completely moved on from that dark history. And there were three known that I know about. There was in the 3 girls that were all underage, you being one of them, and 2 others that had been molested by this gym owner who was an MMA trainer. And it really shook the MMA community and world. I had just gotten into starting to promote with Pinnacle at the time, and had met him not much earlier than when all this stuff came out. And so, it was very much a shocking thing. And even to the point where like I knew it, I guess I never even put two and two together. I knew that you started your career out down there.
Yeah.
And even during that time, I never even thought about that. I never. And so when your post came out, I was just like, wow. And just to kind of, I know as like a 13-year-old boy, I was advanced on by a guy, an adult guy that tried to like do stuff with me. And I can remember how literally terrified I was. So when I learned like that it was you and like, it just really like, oh man, like I can't imagine, like it's just awful. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that was it. The question that you asked, like what was the starting question there, was about the change of heart, like wanting to speak about it now.
Yeah. So whenever after everything kind of came out, I kind of quit training for a little bit. Like I was like in and out of the gym till I was about from 17 to about 20-ish. I was like I would train for a couple weeks and I wouldn't for 3 weeks, and I would, then I wouldn't. So I was real sporadic. I was just going through a lot. Like, I don't know. I was super young when all that happened, and I never really got to like grow up and like be a kid. And then like I was super dedicated to training at that time too. Like that was my life. So just like kind of going through all that, like those couple years after that happened, I was like shook. Like I didn't know how to really like function. I didn't know like, does this mean I shouldn't ever train again? Does this mean I shouldn't fight? Does it mean I should? Like I didn't really know. So it was actually I want to say I was 20, and I was I was real into like lifting weights at that time. I was being below at bodybuilding shows and stuff like that. And after everything came out, I would think, like I said, I think I was 20 at this time. There was a guy, one of my bodybuilding coaches. He would help me with like bodybuilding stuff, lifts, like nutrition. He has a little girl, and she was like 8 at the time, and he knew I trained, obviously, and he knew everything that happened to me. Like he's a really, his name's Trevor Banco. He's a great guy. He's kind of like, he's like one of the guys that kind of helped like me kind of get through this in a sense. Like he probably doesn't even know that he did that, but just being like a really good coaching figure in my life at that time. I obviously dealing with the one I was dealing with he was a great person for me to be around, but he wanted me to train his little girl. And like, I wasn't doing anything at the time, but of course, like I was like, of course, like absolutely. Like, so I started training with her, and then I started to realize like, I can't, like, I need to train. If I'm going to train her, like I need to be training. So that really sparked my interest to like get back into the gym and start to train again. And then that's when I kind of was like, wait a second, like what, I've been missing something for like, a long time. But when I first started fighting, I thought I wanted to talk about it, and that, and I fought a couple times, and then I'm like, maybe I don't. Like when my second fight, I actually was pretty public about it. I made a little bit of money off of like tickets, and I like gave some of it to like a sexual assault awareness, program, just to, cause I just was like trying to find my way with it. Like, how do I do something meaningful with like this? Like, how do I make a difference? And then I kind of backtracked on that, cause I lost my next 2 fights. I'm like, maybe this isn't the reason. Like, I'm not sure. But recently, like the last really like year, it's like kind of like after really my fight in December with you guys, I was like that was like a hard, that's all. December's always like a hard time for me. Like, I try not to put too much like pressure on it. December, yeah, because that's when December is when like it went out publicly. Like I would it was known for the first time. So it's kind of like I don't know. There's just something about that whole month that's like, I don't know how to explain how I feel inside, but it's like empty almost, but also not, because there's so many emotions and stuff with this. But yeah, so that fight in December was like really hard on me. I felt a lot of pressure. Fighting at home too has always been hard for me. So and that fight was hard. Like it wasn't an easy fight. And then after that, I was like, and I know I edged the win out by like the skin of my teeth. And like, if I would have lost that fight, it would have been totally fine. Like I would have accepted that. Like it's what it did for me has nothing to do with, I guess, the result. It was just like, I mean, I guess it does. The winning that way, that fight showed me like, I had to fight super hard to do anything with this. Like I had to go through all I went through. Like that fight, like kind of like represented like my journey. And like, even though it sucked the entire time and I had to fight so hard and stay so focused and like just focus on the end result, like I can still like come out on top, even if it's just a little bit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where like I had that like shift and like, I need to tell people about this. Like this can't stay just, you know, inside for the rest of my life.
Yeah, it's incredible. And you hear fighters all the time talk about how fighting can mirror life in so many different ways that it's almost ironic that what led you to that in the first place is also what's helping save you, right?
Yeah.
You know, being in the gym and training and everything. And I'm sure as a young girl, I think we talked about it on the last podcast with Pat, and it's so uncommon for young girls to train MMA at all.
Yeah.
And then for that to be kind of your first experience with it, you know, you did say it took maybe a year or two until he went there with it, but was grooming you all along to get there for sure. What was the reaction at the gym whenever it came out? Because if anybody knows, like there's great people at that gym for sure. Like, so that's when Ryan was saying it rocked it. It did, because it was like, wow, that, like those guys, what?
Yeah. I honestly, I don't think anybody knew anything. It was like, everybody's like just like kind of just shook. Like I remember like just like specifically like Nick texted me and was like, because I don't know if people know, but the guy who did this to me, like some people thought he was great, but some people knew he was a douchebag. You know, I mean, then obviously people don't assume
we don't have to protect. Like his name's Bill Bosley.
Yeah.
He was the owner at the time of the Uniontown Fight Club. He's convicted.
Yeah, he's in jail for the rest of his life probably. But you know, some people kind of knew he was a scumbag. Some they didn't know he's molesting kids. Like people don't just assume that about people, even if you're an asshole. But some people thought he was one of the greatest people on earth because they looked up to him and valued his opinion and him as a person and a coach and respected him and whatever. So, you know, I definitely like it shocked our gym, but like I remember Nick texting me like specifically just like, you know, we're here if you need anything. Like we never thought it, but and he did say though, he's like he crossed the line. Like this is not this is just not okay. Like in any way you look at it, there's not one way that makes this okay. Josh Frem like messaged me. He's like, what is going? He's like, what's going on? He was like, because like they knew, like they obviously the names weren't publicized, but like the people who know us knew.
Sure.
Like you put it to like if you train at the gym, you put it together. Really.
So were there only 3 girls training at the gym? Is that? I mean,
basically
is
three girls and his girlfriend.
Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of like.
So all 3 girls, young girls that were training there.
And there was many girls that's come in and out of that gym that I can guarantee you they're not there because of him. Yeah. Not because, I mean, I'm sure some because they just didn't like it or whatever. But there's girls that messaged me privately like that's why they didn't come back. Not because anything happened, just because
they sensed something was
they
not
knew.
right.
They could tell like either he said something inappropriate to them or they can kind of just sense the vibe was weird. Yeah, there was a lot of girls that told me some stuff. So.
Yeah, I remember at the Pinnacle show, the time I met him, and I mean, I don't know why, but there was a female fighter. I don't remember. I don't think she trained there. Cheyenne didn't train there. I can't think of who was on that card that
Pinnacle
maybe trained.
Was it
there.
At Stage AE?
No, it was Pinnacle's.
Shriners?
No, it was at Prince Gate.
Oh,
Pinnacle 15 or 16. I think it was 16. Or no, 15.
I bet I know who you're talking about.
I can't remember who it was.
I think I know who it is.
But I remember him, like seeing him, and I didn't really know him, and I was just walking by, but I felt uncomfortable about like his comfortability, like with a female, like that's a young girl. And
if it's who I'm thinking of, and I can give us, I don't want to say her name.
Because
you're putting it together.
Yeah, no, and this was something like when the news came out, like I immediately thought of that, and I was like, I felt weird about him.
Yeah,
and it also could be me just like remembering, like I think I want to. I don't know. It just But
I'm sure you're right.
But it just seemed like he was super comfortable, like touching a young girl, like even if
Yeah.
it seemed, I don't know, it's just like guys, you shouldn't feel. I don't know. I don't know.
I know. I totally understand exactly what you're saying. I definitely understand that.
I have like a million questions.
I know.
You.
Yeah,
Same.
whatever you listen, guys. Look, I did the hardest thing I had to do in my life already. I can answer literally anything you guys have to ask me about this.
Well,
Anything.
kind of on that point, Ryan, I think I don't even want to say the weird part, but because it's all, super messed up.
Yeah.
But it was right in front of everybody the whole time. And the MMA community is so tight knit, man. We see it all the time promoting.
Yeah.
We can't send a tweet that's slightly controversial without somebody screenshotting it and blowing us up about it. You know what I mean? So the fact that it was right there, and like you said, there's 3 young girls that consistently train at the gym, and 3 young girls are named when it goes public. Not named, but it's said that there were 3 young girls involved. And like Ryan, I never really put it together either, even though I knew. And then once you came out and said it, I was like, okay, now I'm pretty sure I know the other 2 as well.
Yeah.
But it was crazy how under wraps it was able to be. And did you feel while it was happening, this is an extremely private situation that I should not tell anybody about?
I was told not to tell anybody,
by him, I assume. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. For not exactly at first. It wasn't until he was criminally incorrect that he was like, you can't tell anybody. But as soon as that, yeah, absolutely. You cannot tell anybody. You can't tell your mom. Delete these messages. Delete everything. Yeah, it was very just I couldn't I never thought I'd tell anybody.
Yeah.
It.
Did he make you think it was part of partly your idea?
Absolutely, yeah. In a way, he liked to think that, I guess you could say that we wanted that to happen. That's what he literally, whenever he was testifying to the police or whatever, and when they brought him in, he said, well, they wanted this to happen. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean,
okay.
the ways you justify things in your own.
Yep.
I mean, when I do something wrong, not that but when I do something wrong, I was speeding, but my son needed pay. You justify, I guess, when you do things like that, that's how you justify it in your own head.
I guess so.
Yeah, there's so many layers to his story. I think the more you read about him and learn about his past, he had a past felony before that even happened that was completely unrelated. Did military time, very likely had PTSD, depression, anxiety, all the stuff that comes with it.
Heard about all that.
So there's the story.
Hold on, elaborate on that.
Well, that was his argument in court. It was I had PTSD, I went to war, I made bombs that killed people. What else? I think he argued depression. He said he's a righteous man because he believes in God. Anything that he could grab at. I'm gonna tell you one thing: the DA hooked him up.
Yeah,
he didn't let him get by with any of that kind of argument. You can't argue. Not everybody that has PTSD molests kids.
Correct. That's the counterpoint. Exactly.
Yeah, that's just not a fact at all. Yeah, and then
even a small. There's not even a 10%. It's that's not.
You're a pedophile because
you have that or you don't in you. Yeah,
absolutely. You're not. It doesn't happen just one day because you've seen some bad stuff in war, and I'm not I know that really messes people up, but it doesn't cause them. It doesn't
cause you to be a pedophile.
Yeah, it doesn't.
You might be a little more violent or a little more fidgety or
yeah. And just to jump back slightly to the part where he's asking you to keep it super quiet for very obvious reasons, I think a secondary thing that goes with this, and it's really disgusting to read, and you can still find it on Facebook like I just did recently when I was refreshing everything about this situation, is just the comments and the outside commentary of oh, it was happening for 3 years, but they just kept going back, blaming you, of course. How did you handle that in the wake of it? Not only the situation being terrible, but being such a young woman at the time, that had to just be a super tornado for you.
Yeah, it was definitely it was hard. I feel like I was really lucky because my parents were really great, supportive through the entire thing, and I had a lot of people who were really supportive of me. So I tried to just like, like listen to them, like, and they did. Like, as soon as this all came out, like they like got me in counseling and stuff like that. So like I was around a lot of people who were like reassuring me, like this isn't your fault, but really like for what, for 3 to 4 years, like I thought it was all my fault. Like I thought there's no way out of this. Like I couldn't backpedal. Like the consequences of that were like just at that age for me were awful. Like I didn't want to go through that either. So yeah, it was definitely really like it was definitely hard reading that stuff. Like I know there was some of the stuff that stood out to me was a girl I actually went to school with that like kind of were like not like crazy close friends with, but like we were kind of friends. Like we wrestled. It's just funny. It's actually we wrestled one year in middle school together. She wrestled for a little bit. So did my sister and I. And she was one of the ones like questioning like why would somebody wait to tell? And it's like, I'm assuming you would know this is about me, right? Like maybe not, but I would assume. But just even if you don't, just like why would you like to think that any child like is trying to get somebody in trouble because it's funny or because they're mad about something. Like I heard that somebody's commented like that this person's just mad because he has a new girlfriend now and stuff like that. And it's just like that. It was so far from from a relation like boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever sexual. It was not that at all for me. Like, so to hear people make those comments was really like, I don't know. It was not easy to deal with.
Yeah.
It just makes you feel like gross about yourself.
Yeah, it's victim blaming, and it's like, I don't know, it's absurd. So can we back up a little bit? You said at 10 you started training MMA. You were at some other gym.
Yeah.
So what at 10 years old, what drew you, or was it just being involved athletically, or what drew you specifically to like MMA or like combat?
So really, it was my mom. My mom, when we were 10, wanted me and my sister to learn how to defend ourselves, which is like kind of ironic because, the exact place you learn to defend yourself is the same place that's abusing you. Obviously not physically, but
physically.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, physically too.
Every way.
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. When you look, yeah, you're right, Ryan. There goes my like, just kind of like pushing it down, like it's not that bad kind of mindset. But yeah, it was my mom just wanting us to learn how to defend ourselves. I could definitely say that I've always been like a kind of competitive like kid. Like I played soccer when I was a kid, and I like not that I got in trouble for pushing and stuff too much. So I was always kind of like into the roughness. So I think that's why I really like drew to MMA once we kind of just got started like learning about self-defense and stuff.
Were you a tomboy, would you say?
No, 100,000%. I used to wear cowboy boots and basketball shorts when I was a kid.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Karli Jo Tomboy.
Why do you think they call me Carl?
So tomorrow is Halloween, and I think you should go as young Karli Jo with their cowboy boots
and basketball shorts.
Please. Were they like and one dazzle shorts? That's what I hope. Like shiny ones. Dude.
Nah, I don't know. It was just whatever. Like, yeah, I don't really remember. It was just whatever. I always remember like the black ones with the white stripes down the side. That was ones I remember.
Classy, yeah.
Okay, so
awesome.
So you start training when you're 10. You end up at Uniontown Fight Club, and this grooming process starts over the course of like a year or so.
Yeah,
and so when it becomes sexual, like what your 12-year-old self what were you like? How did you like? What did you think to yourself? Like, how did and where is this stuff taking place? Is it in the gym? Is it
right? So a lot of it started like through text messaging. So I I remember distinctively, I was sitting on my grandma's couch. We and my sister were over her house for the summer. And this was like the first time he's ever sent me a message that like kind of made me like, was like, why are you sending this? But, and he literally just asked me like, what are you doing today? Like that was it. And I was like, kind of
So
like,
he had sent you previous text messages?
he would send me text messages like maybe about the gym before or something like that.
Like, hey, we have open mat or something.
Right. Stuff like that until I was about 13, 14 years old. When I was, it was all summer in August. I remember August was when everything kind of started to like get weird. So it was August. He sent me that message like what do you got going on today? I don't remember his exact words, but it kind of made me like question like, I just don't, why do you need to know that? But then I just like brushed it off, kind of like, yeah, maybe he just wants to know like if I'm gonna be like, if he's kind of gauging, am I gonna be at the gym later? Am I like, where am I at for the day? Because he would like pick me up and take me home and stuff sometimes too. So you know,
prior to that moment, like how do you view him?
He to me was like kind of like my dad in a sense, like my gym dad, not like my dad, because my dad and him are not the same person,
but like a father,
but kind of like a father figure. Yeah, like I trusted him. Like I said, he'd pick me up, he'd take me home because my parents both worked a lot. You know, he believed in my dreams, he believed in me, encouraged me like in that sense. You know, he helped me a lot at the gym. So yeah, he was like my gym dad.
Was he mostly like fight advice, or was he trying to like life advice as well?
So first it was fight advice, and then after he started sending me the messages like the what are you doing today messages, then he started getting more like I'm here, like if you need anything, like giving like, you know, kind of like life advice. Like it wasn't just like coach, you know, trying to like
get
it was like a slow like transition to that. It was very like, from what I'm like remember, it was like it was slow. So, you know, at first it was like, what are you doing? Then it was like, if you need anything, like I'm here for you. And then like the rides got more frequent and started like pushing the like, he would like ask, do you need a ride, rather than like at me asking him for a ride, stuff like that. So and sometimes like my parents would be like, you're just not like, we're just not going to go to the gym tonight. And he would text me like, are you coming to the gym? And I wouldn't lie to him. So I'd be like, no, like I, you know, whatever, I'm not gonna be able to make it tonight. And he'd like push to like come pick me up. So, and that was before like anything like happened. Like
now, before anything happened, did you internally feel like something's not right, or were you just like okay with it?
I was kind of okay with it at that time, because like it was like that one little thing that made me feel a little bit off, and then like it didn't happen for a while after that, and kind of just things were like normal, and then it would be like something else, and then a little something else, and eventually like it's hard to remember like every little thing because there's kind of so much happened, and I get when I think about it, like how, like I almost ask myself like, how did I get from that to what was going on? Like how did it get that bad? And I think it was really just like I said, that slow like little sprinkle of this, sprinkle that, sprinkle like, you know,
a little bit further, a little bit further.
Yep, and that's really just how it kind of, you know, happened.
Yeah, I'm sure you've thought about this, and for people watching who are maybe in a situation like this, what do you look back at as like, if I was redoing all this, I could have shut it down right here. Like
that
what
moment that he sent that text message at my grandma's house, I think about that all the time. I'm like, if I would have in that moment told like somebody or not answered, like maybe things would be totally different. Maybe he would have got like the hint that like I like because like I tried to give the hint like after it was too late, you know what I mean? But I could never get my point. Like it was never just able to be accepted, I guess, as like, please leave me alone. But at that time, I think maybe I could have stopped that.
What about how old are you?
25.
25. You're potentially gonna have kids of your own someday.
Maybe.
I don't know if you intend that or not. I'm just saying
Possibly.
You're a 25-year-old female.
Yeah.
You could. What are things that you think, you know, as a parent that you might watch out for? What are some warning signs that you might watch out for, or talk to your child when and if you have one, that because of your past experience would help you like identify?
Yeah. I feel like it's I think just going through it, I'll be able to recognize certain things with certain people that's like just not quite right. And it might not be to that extent, like that bad, but just that they're just
any unhealthy relationship.
that they're just not, this is not a good person for you to be around. I think I'll just have more of a sense for that. I definitely think like controlling their ability to be like on social media, what they're posting, who they're texting, like limit that as much as possible. I mean, I feel like if your kid's involved in something, like as a parent, like they need zero contact with their coaches for any, or if you're in music class, like whatever the situation is, if it's too, like they don't even talk to your kid at all. You take care of every ounce of that. That man is, or woman, whoever it is, does not need to talk to your child. I feel like, and I don't blame my parents at all, because I 1,000% understand why they trusted him. So did I. So does a lot of people. But I just think like just looking at it from now, I feel like they probably feel that way too. Like
Sure.
I feel like I wish we just would have never, let communication like that happen. And be there. Like don't leave your kid somewhere. Like be able to see everything that's happening. Like I feel like that's my biggest advice, because you can't breathe down your kid's neck for the rest of their life, but do it as long as you can. Because it takes like the small, it's literally the littlest moments are like what they'll take advantage of. Like, so like just an example, like our gym, there was like an office in the back that was like Bill's office or whatever. And there would be practice happening out there, and he would want me to come back there at some point during practice to touch me or whatever you would say. And it's literally, there's people training in the gym. So just be there. Don't let them have a chance at all for any reason.
Yeah. And he's the whole time, of course, asking you to keep it super quiet.
Yeah.
Which makes sense on his end. You can imagine why. Were you talking to the other women involved in this as well? Did you have anybody to talk to throughout all of it?
So whenever this was happening, none of us knew. And maybe we knew, but we never spoke of it to each other at all.
Wow.
I definitely, the older I got more suspicious. But when I was like young, like it was like when I was like 16 or 17 is when I really was like starting to understand what was happening. Because when I was a kid, when I was like 12, 13, 14 years old, like I feel like some kids are a little like more further along sexual. I was not that child. Like I didn't have a boyfriend. I didn't hang out with guys. Like that was like not me at all. Like I wore like
you hung out with guys to play basketball.
I literally like I would like it's like kind of like I would wear basketball shorts and t-shirts to the gym. Like I didn't wear spats or like that's just how I was. I was a total tomboy. So yeah, whenever we were young, I didn't really know. I didn't think about it like that. Like I thought I was told I was special. Like that was like how he would refer to what I was to him. I was like, you're special. So like I assumed like this is probably only happening to me. So it wasn't until I started to get, when I got older and I just seeing things more and like dealing with him for so long, like kind of just knowing how he works at this point, I started to kind of pick up some stuff, and I was like, maybe this isn't just happening to me. And there was an incident involving one of the other girls that was brought to my attention that kind of like got this out, because if it wouldn't have been for that conversation, I don't know if I would have ever said anything.
Okay, so you're the one that
yeah I'm the one who told.
I have so many questions.
You want to know about that?
Well, I do, but
okay.
I want to go back a little bit.
Go for it.
So did you have confusing feelings about him when all of this was going on? Were you confused about like, I trust him, I like him, I care about him, but this is happening, and why, like all those things?
Yeah,
like
very confusing. It was like extremely confusing. I mean, because in one sense, like, because I was listening and doing everything that he wanted me to, like, training was great. He was, super nice to me all the time. He would buy me stuff, like, all those things that you hear about, like with a,
Grooming.
pedophile and grooming. Like he did like almost all that. So in one way, I felt very comfortable with him. And I felt like he's somebody, like if I was with him and I was like out somewhere, like I wasn't worried somebody else was gonna hurt me. Like I felt like safe in that.
Safe, yeah.
I felt safe in that regard, but like at the same sense, I felt really unsafe in certain situations with him because obviously, like what was happening was like not. It was it was extremely uncomfortable. So it was a very just hard dynamic to deal with, especially being just so young and like just figuring your body out and stuff like that. And it was not.
So did any part of you like, and again, there's no victim blaming here at all. Did any part of you feel like, oh, there's this like jacked guy, he's shown an interest in me? Like,
no, it wasn't like that at all. Like, no, I can't even, just no, there was no interest like that. Like when that situation was brought up, like I like wanted to shut down and run away so bad. And it was like, I would try, I would beg him, like, please, like, this really makes me feel, like I would tell him, like, this makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't like this. I don't want to do this. And it was just like, there was just some way he would like, just like get me to do it. He would plead, beg, like, you're hurting my feelings. I thought you loved me, cared about me, like anything. Like, and then if like, I wouldn't cooperate, like there were like consequences, like mostly involved the gym. Like he was never physically like abusive. Like he didn't hit me or forcefully like do anything sexual, like mentally forcefully, but it wasn't like physically forcefully. Which I think also like people don't understand. Like those both things are totally different. Like, I mean, I guess any of it's just terrible. I couldn't imagine somebody forcing you to do that either. Like, and he was that way with one of the other girls. He was more like forceful with hers, in which, it's just not okay. But what was the question? I'm sorry, I got off track.
I'm not sure, to be honest. We'll just ride off that for sure. I think unpacking all of it is almost impossible, right? Like you've been through, I can only imagine how much therapy and everything you've been through since then. At what point, because obviously you and Patton are now in a very loving, great relationship by all accounts. Like at what point did you feel ready to accept a man into your life in that way again?
Honestly, like relationships were hard for a long time. Like really until I was with Justin, like my mom will tell you, like I did not pick the good guys. Like I did not make good choices in that. And I truly think because I was just I didn't even realize it, but just so messed up from that. I had boyfriends. Like I was actually with somebody whenever that happened, which was hard. It was super hard to deal with too, and did not handle it well.
Wait, he didn't, or
no,
you didn't?
Not at all.
Yeah.
No, but that was not a good ending to that either. Which was honestly another thing that made the whole situation very hard. Like he blamed me in a sense because I was with him, and this is getting off topic, but I was with this guy and still training at the time at that gym, and like not that nothing was happening, but just being around him, he like assumed like it was a current thing going on, and it really wasn't. It was just when I decided to finally like tell what was happening. But from that, like that obviously ended, and then since that, it was like crap guy after crap guy after crap guy, and then I met Justin one day. Now here we are. So
how long did you know Justin before you guys like started dating?
It's like, this is crazy, I'm telling you. So I was like 15 years old when I saw Justin for the first time, and I'm telling you, like it's just weird because I like remember him. Like I mean, obviously there's a lot of people I remember, but like specifically, like not that I exactly like thought he was cute or whatever, but like I just like I kind of did. I was like, who's this guy? Like, he
Mhm.
seems cool. Like, I never spoke to him at all. Like, he probably didn't even know.
How wrong you were.
I know, right?
I mean, come on.
But
Unbelievable.
he probably hates that I'm telling this too. But
Even better.
That makes us excited to hear.
But yeah, so I was like 15 when I like seen him for the first time, and I've just remembered him ever since then. But what's funny is like, it is so ironic, is obviously like things were happening that time with Bill, and Bill told me that Justin was a little asshole. So it's just like, that would like, of course, like, and I didn't even tell him like I had any interest in Justin whatsoever, but like I don't know if he could sense that I felt some way, or if it's just a coincidence, but like, out of everybody in the building, I noticed this guy, and then the guy that's, molesting me, trying to ruin my life, or however you want to say it, is like, is telling me that this guy that I think might be whatever is an asshole.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
calculated for sure.
Yeah.
Pat's an asshole.
I mean,
so.
yeah, now I know that. I didn't know that then. I learned the hard way.
Yeah, it's all the little things like that. His whole PTSD argument, all that, like, that throws it all out the window. Like, how calculated every single part of this was. I'm sure it makes it so much more disgusting, honestly.
Yeah.
And well, one of the things I don't, so part of my question, and I didn't want to seem like that it was weird or anything on the way I was asking about how you've, like, there are victims that have a lot of empathy for their, like, for who's targeting them,
right?
And especially when they're like young and girls, and so I want people to know.
A dumb question, I guess, like, define empathy. Like,
well, I mean, so a lot of people have, a lot of victims have this loyalty,
okay,
and like feel bad for the person that's like victimizing them,
right?
And it happens in rape cases, it happens in molestation cases, it happens in all those cases, and that's like a fairly normal phenomenon. And I just wanted to make it clear that, like, if someone's gone through something like that and they did have those feelings, like, don't feel like that's not normal or something like that. And it's like a weird part of, like, being a victim, especially in a case where someone is in a position of, like, power over you, and someone that has groomed you to, like, that you respected at one point, and all those things.
It's a very normal feeling in that situation, for sure. Like,
so when the shit hit the fan, and it started to, like, come out. So you obviously told someone, a parent,
my mom,
and then the police got involved. Was there ever a point where it got back to him before he was arrested or anything, where he contacted you and, like, heard something?
No, nothing. He didn't contact me after he knew that the police knew. So he did contact me after I told, before he knew the police knew, if that makes sense. So, which I just didn't respond to him.
So he knew you kind of had told someone, it had gotten back to him? No.
He didn't know at all.
Oh, okay.
So the police were, like, awesome with this. Like, they gave him zero chance to, like, talk to me in any way. Like, they did, best they could with that. So I told the police. And it was like that exact day that I told the police, he, like, texted me just something about the gym. I think he just asked if I was coming to the gym or tonight or something. I might have told him no. I don't remember if I even answered him. I don't think I did. But so it was like the next day or the day after that they actually arrested him. And then some idiot bailed him out, and he was out for a little bit while, like, obviously he knew at this point. But thankfully there was girls coming forward. They were able to arrest him again and put him back in jail, and nobody could put him on after that.
So someone bailed him out for just your
yes.
And then as more came forward, they rearrested him
Yes.
based on the new charges.
Yes.
So he was out on bail.
I actually might be. I think he might have got out on bail twice because I could be wrong about that. I can't remember correctly, but I'm pretty sure it was twice because I think I'll say I don't even care. His girlfriend did the first time, and then I'm pretty sure his dad did the second time, and I think they arrested him a third time, and they were out of money at that point. And
well, he was denying it at first, right? He was saying this is untrue.
I don't think he might have denied it at first, but there was a point like right when the police brought him into the barracks that he pretty much admitted
Gave a full confession.
Yeah, it was like they wanted this to happen, and stuff like that. It's like the police didn't tell me everything that was said that he said to them, but that was kind of like one of the things that they said.
Yeah. So it sounds like he admitted to everything, but made it seem like it's not because I'm a bad guy. You have to understand this is why it happened.
Yeah.
Which is super difficult as well. Was there any period when he was out on bail that you were concerned for your safety?
Yes and no. Like when this all happened, my dad was super like just protective.
I can't even imagine. Yeah.
My mom too, of course. But definitely my dad. So I felt like I was with them, so I felt safe. But slightly honestly, like even like I know he's in jail, but even today, like I look around myself all the time. Like I'm always checking. Like there's people I pass that remind me of him, and I just like look, double check just to like make sure. So like I'm pretty confident, but it's just like that little like you never know. Like you never know. You know what I mean? So people break out. I mean, people do break out of jail. Like I'm not saying that that's gonna happen, but like just knowing, like because the reason I have a little bit of that is the reason that I ended up kind of telling. So I guess that's a good time to kind of explain like why.
Yeah, let's get into that.
So, so like I said, when I was about 17 years old, I kind of stopped training, but it was like about a year and a half. I really started to like miss it. And at this time, from 17 to the time I went back, nothing was happening. Like I kind of was like, I am done with this. Like this is not happening anymore. I don't like it. And I completely like cut him off, stopped training. But obviously, like I really loved MMA, and like I was like, people were like, "What? Like, why aren't you at the gym?" Like, I would talk to Nick sometimes, and like Ethan and the other guys there, and like, of course, they're asking like, "What's going on?" Like, because they didn't know. So eventually, like, I ended up going back to the gym, like, kind of just hoping like maybe this is like done with, and like we can move on. Like, I'm kind of an adult now. Like, I'm bigger, stronger. Like, I can. It's been over a year. Like, maybe this can just be dead, and like we never have to speak of it again. And it was kind of like that at first. And eventually, like, he kind of did a little bit of the thing. And I basically fell back into the trap, long story short. But nothing ever happened at that point. Like, it was just like messages back and forth, but nothing sexually ever happened after that. It was just like the kind of like the beginning stages of it. And then there was a day where he was trying to make a plan to like meet up and do whatever. And I like was going to do it, and like that morning came, and like I couldn't do it. Like it didn't matter what, like there was no way that I was gonna able to go through with it. Which
so was this like a no way anger, or was it no way sick? Was this like what?
I was like sick to my stomach. Like it wasn't angry. It was like I don't even know how to explain it. It was like it's unlike any like feeling really. I wasn't like I was kind of like it was like sick to my stomach. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was like kind of scared, but it was just like this like awareness of like if I do this again, like
it's right back in.
I'm not getting out of this for a really long time. Like I just knew that, and I'm like I can't do it, and I didn't. And he was very upset. Very upset. He was like telling me like he obviously worked a job and he was gonna pay somebody to work the day for him so like he could meet me and all this stuff. And like he's like, I'm just trying to like make you feel good and it's all kinds of stuff like that. And like I said, just then I was like, I just really like I don't feel comfortable, don't want to.
At this point,
not ready.
About 16.
I was like 18 at this point. Yeah. Because I was 17 when the last like sexual encounter happened. This was more just like messaging back and forth, kind of like like how it was when I was like 13, 14 years old. But like more like fast paced, like it was like sped up, you know what I mean? So that day, went to the gym and I trained, and it was like definitely a little bit awkward, like not as bad as it used to be. And I feel like that was just because like he knows that this is the first time in a really long time. So like probably not going to be as susceptible to just like give in to him. But I can't remember if it was the same day or the next day, but he was talking to me and one other person in the cage, just about like random whatever. I don't know how it got brought up, but he was talking about one of the other girls that was a victim in this situation, and saying like she must have tried to tell somebody at some point. And he was saying like if she ever told and got me in trouble, and like taken away from my son, like I'd put a bullet between her eyes. And like I said, that was like the same kind of like right around the time where I was like, I really don't want to do this anymore. And I do believe that.
Who was he telling that to?
It was me. He was talking to me and one of my teammates. His name was Brandon Swaney. He was just talking to us in the cage, just like normal, like, you know, friends or whatever. And he said that, and obviously, like I'm saying, like knowing, like Brandon was clueless. He had no idea.
Yeah.
He remembers like
so. He was saying, I'm just trying to understand the situation. So he's saying she's making these, like she said something to someone, like this is bullshit. Like if she ever did that, like I'm putting a bullet through her head. So he was literally like telling you that too.
In a sense, like he wasn't talking specifically about me, but
it was a warning.
I definitely took it as a warning. And I was just like I was kind of like, it just did not sit right with me. Like that was the moment when I was like, felt kind of unsafe, which is so weird to say because this is when I ended up telling. But I think it's because I was like, that was the moment I recognized this isn't just happening to me, and this is like dangerous. Like this is actually dangerous.
So were you a senior or were you graduated at the time?
I graduated when I was 17. So yeah, okay. I was out of school already. So I went home that night and I was talking to my mom, and I was just telling her, because I talk to my mom about everything. So I was just telling her like what Bill said about this girl. And then she kind of like looked at me and she's like she could tell the way I told her like something wasn't right. She's like, did he ever do anything to you? And I just told her, I just said, yeah. And kind of just, that's when everything came out. It was like my mom and my sister were there. My dad was taking a shower. And then, that was kind of just how it came out. And I didn't even like think at that point like we were going to tell the police or anything. Like I thought it was like, oh, it's it. It's out.
Telling my mom,
it's good.
It out,
yeah, like, it's good. It's done. And then that's when like my dad and my mom were like, you need to tell the police this. And that was like a whole different kind of thing for sure.
What do you think when he said that, when you were in the cage, and that was like what pushed you over the edge to tell your mom? But there were so many points up to then when he was abusing you and everything that you could have said something. What do you think was different? What changed in that time that you finally, even between the time you left the cage till you got home, you could have talked yourself out of it again? And I'm sure you wanted to a lot. This was probably,
I didn't even mean to tell her though.
Yeah.
So, I didn't say I'm going to go home and tell. It wasn't even like that. It was just talking to her in conversation.
But were you expecting her to?
Maybe subconsciously. Yeah. Maybe like, but I don't
probably subconsciously wanted her to ask you.
Sure.
I think so. I think that's definitely kind of what it was. Cause like, I guess I didn't think in my head, like, I'm going to go home and tell my mom. Hopefully she asked me. It was just kind of like, I think it's because it didn't sit right with me. And I just wanted to kind of like vent about it. And like, maybe she would say something that either like made me feel better or whatever. But my mom knows me like a book, which I should have known that.
Of course.
And like, kind of, I think just sensed it at that point and was like, wow, like she had no idea.
So did you break down then with your parents?
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
And
yeah, like I didn't even tell them. Like I just said yeah, and it was like instantly. It was
Oh,
like
sure.
I just lost
Yeah,
it. Like
yeah.
I couldn't talk. Like I couldn't
Mhm.
even say anything. Like it took a while before I could like.
Yeah.
And I didn't even really tell them. Like I told them a lot, like the basics, like the easy, like kind of like the little spiel, but like it wasn't until I mean, I had to go to the police station until I had to be like very like detailed with them about everything.
So
Sure.
what all police did you deal with?
So the Uniontown police, our state police in by Penn State Elderberry campus and down like in Uniontown.
So it was the state police mainly that interviewed you. And
yes, yeah, my dad took me to the state police and yeah, they brought me back in like one of the rooms and just I think I was in there for like 3.5 hours and just asking me like so many questions.
Was it that night they took you?
It was like it wasn't even the day the next. It was like 2 days later. My dad took me. He had to kind of talk me into it because I really did not want to like.
Sure.
I'm so glad I did now, and like I would tell it a million times over. But at that time, like I didn't. I was just scared. Like I didn't,
Mhm.
you know, and I didn't know what.
Well,
Really,
that's an intimidating situation
Yeah.
if you have a speeding ticket. You know, if
Yeah.
it's something mild, let
Yeah.
alone you knew that this was going to cause waves with people that you knew and
yeah,
yeah.
it was
So I can imagine.
everything was like,
and it's like this. That's like the scariest thing. Like
yeah,
you know that there's a chance that like nobody believes you.
yeah,
Like, and he maybe has like powerful relationships or like, yeah, I just think that that's a very courageous and like super courageous and like you're a hero to people. Like there's people that like you saved other people.
yeah,
You saved other victims that never had the opportunity to be a victim of Bill Bosley's. Like,
yeah,
so that's a heroic act just by being strong enough, being,
yeah,
you know, courageous enough to speak up. When you, so there's the day you tell your parents, and then a day or two later that you go to the police. Obviously, your parents have people in their lives that they're close to that they're probably seeking advice from.
yeah.
So were you was there were you scared that maybe it could get back to him before like are there those 2 days was there
A little bit. I get what you're saying. A little bit. The police kind of said like try not to have contact. Like don't really tell people. Like they were kind of like just keep this here until we take care of this because they didn't want him to have any opportunity for anything because they didn't know how he would react. Like is he gonna be violent? Is he gonna try to flee the country? Is he gonna I don't, do whatever. So I didn't feel too worried in that day. I was more worried about having to deal with him contacting me, knowing I told, and just that conflict was like the most concerning because I did just tell him I don't want to, have sex with you anymore, basically. And there was that conversation and I knew I told. So just like dealing with that, like him already being kind of like, I'm not on his good side at the moment, I guess you could say, and just like smoothing that over until the police took care of it. That was like one of the harder things to deal with in that time in regards to like him finding out, I guess.
What were the conditions of his parole or his being bailed out? Like obviously no contact with you, but was it like certain like I just think it's crazy that we have like that someone that violently violating youth, like young people, can get out on parole and that's the other thing, like what evidence did they collect from you, like your cell phone messages?
They took my cell phone.
Had you erased any of the previous?
Nearly everything.
Yeah.
There was like I was lucky kind of that I had some messages, like recent messages that was very obvious that something was not right. Like even the lady that investigated pretty much this entire case, she was like reading them and kind of like I could just see it in her face that like she could just tell like there is something not right here. So I think she's a big reason that things are like they were dealt with as good as they were, because I feel like there's some situations where they are not dealt with correctly. Like, I mean, anybody who touches a child should never ever walk another day outside of jail ever. Yeah. And I don't think they should be put to death either. You should suffer the rest of your life in jail. Like that's but you asked about bail and stuff. So I don't really know what the stipulations were for that. I know by the second or third time though that he was arrested, they pretty much made it impossible for him to be able to be bailed out. I do know that.
Yeah. The I feel like this is a case, or at least in your case, because of a lack of evidence.
Yeah.
Because it hadn't happened in over a year. They couldn't do like a rape kit on you.
Yeah.
They couldn't do like anything like that. That if he didn't, and you had erased the most incriminating evidence on your phone, I feel like if he didn't confess, and there weren't other victims, he may have gotten away with it.
Possibly, definitely. I think we got really lucky in a way because of some of the text messages I had. They went through, I think they said like 10,000 pages of like Facebook stuff. Found a lot of stuff there that not exactly like prove that he was a pedophile, but prove that he was a gross human being. I mean, like he has charges for screwing a dog.
I was gonna get into that, but
so, and that was like they found pictures of that. There was pictures he sent of me to another woman when I was underage. So like they did find that. So that was pretty like.
Wait, what? He was sending pictures to another female
of me,
of you
underage
with not clothes on.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was this an adult woman or like
she was an adult
another
woman.
victim?
She was an adult woman.
Yeah.
That's unreal. I think one thing that I wanted to try to highlight, I don't think I really presented it the right way the last time I tried to bring it up, but okay. I'm not a psychologist, you know.
No, you're
well,
totally
that's
fine.
the hard thing is like we can talk with people and ask people questions, but this is a topic that's
this is insane.
Dr. Phil might be qualified,
maybe a little better than us.
Not us. I think you guys are doing fine.
Our hair is way better than his though. But throughout it all, like you've mentioned a few things that super stand out to me. The very first text that made you feel uncomfortable and you decided not to act on that one.
Yeah.
And then the day you woke up when you were 17, 18 and arranging to meet him and you were like, I can't do this now.
Yeah.
And then in the cage training with Swaney and hearing that and knowing like when I go home, like something might happen. Like this might be the one that breaks it. Like all of those occasions rely solely on you trusting your gut.
Yeah.
Like there's no firm evidence. There's no playbook for this to be like, oh, this happened. I need to do this.
Yeah.
Like in something like this, how do you know when to trust your gut? And the reason I'm asking is if other people are going through this, of course, like at what point, what inside you did you feel at each of those times where you knew you had to or had to not act?
Yeah. It was like, it was such a distinct feeling, like almost like there's no way that I'm not right about this. Like, and that's why I wish when I was like young, I didn't let my other like thoughts and opinions and feelings kind of influence that gut feeling. But that is it. It's just having that feel like there's something, it's a special feeling. Like, I really don't know how to explain it, but it's not like, oh, you think somebody's kind of about like a crappy person. Yeah, you kind of know, but like, it's so like, it's just that it's that feeling times like 100. And, like it was most apparent pretty much the 3 times that you mentioned that I mentioned earlier. So yeah, it's just very, very distinct.
Yeah. So you would just tell people you feel that, trust it, believe it. Yeah. That's insane. I just like all of it all together is too much. Like you mentioned the dog pictures and everything. There were just elements to it that made it larger than
Yep.
you would even believe if somebody told you this is what was happening.
Yeah, and what is so like even with the dog situation, like I knew about that before everybody else knew about that. Like he's insinuated stuff like that to me before. He's insinuated being with like a girl, like threesomes, like all of that kind of stuff. Like anything he could like try to expose me to that was like morally incorrect, he did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now you're definitely a woman of faith, and the whole team, the whole Matt Factory team is super rooted in faith. Did you grow up in a faithful household?
Yeah.
Did you so you had those values going in? How did that dimension affect everything going on?
I think for a little bit it made my like relationship with like God a little bit harder because I didn't understand why this was happening. And like I don't really know how to explain it. I think then not so much. Like I had a little bit of like just questionable about stuff. Like you know, I feel like people kind of commonly are like, God, like why do you let this happen to me? But now that I'm older and I'm grown up and I've kind of like got through healed from this in a way, like I see it as like this happened to me because God knows I can handle this and that I can do something with this to help somebody else. So that's kind of like like a shift kind of, and like kind of like I mentioned like the fight with Kara Hode, like that was like a moment where I was like, wait a second, like this is something that I need like, I went through this, I got through this, I'm literally living my dream, like I can use this to do something for somebody else. So yeah, I would definitely just like yeah.
I think God is using you.
Yeah.
And God has already used you. I mean, you were the one that were courageous enough to bring this to the forefront. And like I said, I think, you know, doing that helped the two people that were currently that we know about, and any future that hadn't even started yet. He maybe had like was grooming people in the hopper. Like
he was.
Yes. So
like I know of girls that he was, and
already saved all of them from all of this. So and I'm sure there are going to be people that see this that are in a situation. And so part of what I'd like to do is talk through those things.
Yeah.
And you know, being someone that was in the position and knows the feeling, like I can't ever possibly know the feeling you had. No one that the only people that can understand that are people that have had that same thing.
Yeah.
And so like what if someone's watching this and a young girl or whoever is watching this and they're going through and they're being abused sexually, they're having hard decisions and they're not knowing what they should do. Like what are some things that might help them? What are some things that can help them get the courage to do something?
This is honestly, it's just like I always think about this question, and it's so hard because everybody's situation is different. Like for me, it was just it was a matter of just telling somebody and not exactly solve the problem, but took the problem away and I was safe. I know some people that's not the case, so I don't think saying just tell is like the right answer. I think knowing that you are bigger than the victim, like you are more than just a victim of this, and there are ways to get through it, even if you know it is currently happening. Just you know, I feel like just don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Like say, I don't want this to happen, and you. I mean, I don't want to say that in a sense because that could cause somebody seriously, like they could lose their life over something like that. But I think that's the way. You have to fight it. You can't run from it. You can't let it keep happening because it will control your entire life. At some point, you have to face it. That's it. You got to face it.
And you were very fortunate. You said your
Yeah.
family was extremely supportive and
Yes.
everything, but a lot of people in these situations don't necessarily even
Yeah.
have that. Do you know of some resources that maybe people can use when they feel like they literally don't have anybody to tell?
I know it was the company is called, I don't want to say it's called a company, but it's called RAINN. It's RAINN. I know they have a lot of resources for sexual assault victims, people you can talk to and stuff like that. So that'd be a great resource. But
if you want, the number is 1-800-656-4673.
Yeah.
That's for RAINN.
Yeah.
That's online.rainn.org.
Yeah. I would definitely say, something like that. And I know this obviously isn't possible for every single person, but if you feel like you literally have nobody to talk to, like, I'll talk to you. Like,
Mhm.
I don't have to know who you are. If you want to go tell somebody, you want to go to the police, I'll go with you, if we can make that happen. But yeah, I mean, if you don't have family, like, reach out to somebody like that, a friend, anybody you trust. There is counselors and stuff for that as well. So anything like that. But also know, like, we need people, but we'd have to be able to, like, stand on our own, at some point, and kind of, like, be able to deal with it on your own and not let those like traumas, like, affect you, for the rest of your life. I think that's really important, like, fighting to, like, stand, like, to be able to handle this on by yourself. That's been a really big, like, I'll be honest, I don't go to counseling anymore. I haven't went to counseling in maybe 18. I went to counseling for, like, maybe, like, 2 years, and it was honestly sporadic, but I did it enough just to kind of get me through. And then eventually I was like, like, I need to deal with this on my own, because I don't, it was like, it's a battle I'm fighting. I can't have people fight this for me.
Yeah.
It's
And
kinda
I'm
how-
sure that's another trust your gut situation
Yeah.
as well. For other people, you may need therapy for the rest of your life, and
Yeah.
it might be something that's very
Yep.
helpful. It's no secret to anybody who follows the scene that you're a mentally strong person and
Yeah.
fight. That's what you're known for in the gym and everything. So
I wasn't always, though.
yeah.
I definitely wasn't like that. That made me, like, weak for a long time. And even in my first few fights, like, mentally, I was not very, very strong. It hasn't been till my last handful that I was able to, like, I feel a difference in myself when I'm in there. Like, I'm like, we have we have a job to do. Like, I'm focused. Like, there's nothing that I can't handle. Like, that's, like, how I didn't always think like that before. I didn't always have that, like, that mindset. So it takes time to develop, and going through those hard things and those moments where you're not so strong and kind of dealing with that helps you build that, like, hardness.
How did you handle, like you mentioned, not only that mental aspect that was kind of shattered and rattled a little bit, but earlier we talked about, like, your relationships with men
Yeah.
were really rocky for a while. How did you handle the internal thought, I'm sure, of, like, am I broken for the rest of my life now? Like, is
Yeah.
it ruined?
I kind of I just dealt with it. Like, at some point, like, and this might not be the right way. I stopped feeling sorry for myself. Like, everything that I was doing after Bosley was put away, everything that actions I was doing and I was taking were my choices. So what I'm going through is a result of my choices. I can't blame it on what happened to me. That can't be the reason that I'm not making good choices. Like, that was, like, I had, like, there was, like, a shift eventually. I was like, it can't be an excuse. It can't be my crutch.
It's not even that. I think it goes beyond that. I think if that is, then he still controls you.
1,000%.
And you can't let him control you anymore.
No, definitely not. That's why I questioned it, talking about, like, attaching this to my career, because I don't want him to have the to be a part of it in any way. But, like, that's what kind of, at first, why I didn't mention his name. And I'm not upset you did at all. I'm just saying, like, he doesn't need attack. Like, he is not the reason I'm gonna be great. I'm gonna be great because I'm great and I made good choices and I did the right things, not because I was molested when I was a kid, which is like 3, 4 years, 5 years out of my life compared to how long I'm gonna live and the career I'm gonna have. That's like nothing. Like you do not, that will not hold me back.
Absolutely. Karli Jo is a badass mixed martial arts fighter, and she has offered to be contacted in case you are. So I'm going to tell people her Instagram is Karli, KARLI_JO_MMA. If you need help, you don't want to call the national hotline. Karli Jo said, I will help you. Call me.
Please call me.
Hit her up on Instagram. She's a badass mixed martial artist. She's a college female wrestling coach. You're in pretty good hands with Karli Jo.
Yeah. We'll take care of you.
Absolutely. I still have so many questions.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get that little plug in because we gave the
there was definitely one I wanted to back up to as well. Around when you were the one that kind of broke the story open.
Mm-hmm.
Did you contact the other women at the gym and be like, hey, I told, like, get ready?
No.
And
I didn't. I did not reach out and say that I told. I think I'm trying to remember. Some of this stuff is like
I can't even
it's
imagine.
Just a lot. So much is like happened. It's like hard to remember all the details. I believe the that I gave because I kind of knew. So I gave some names to suspicions and the police reached out to them.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was like pretty instructed to like not say anything to anybody.
Were you worried, and this would be insane, but were you worried that they would be mad at you?
No.
Or like feel like, wow, I wish he didn't do that?
No, not really. Like a little teeny tiny bit, but the one girl I was very close with, and I just knew her like personally, and even the other one I was very close with. So just knowing them, I wasn't too concerned, which I was like, guess good for me, right?
Sure, yeah.
You know?
Did you ever feel, and this is again going down that, did you ever feel like, oh, there's like other girls, like I'm not the girl, like I don't know, this is a weird question, I'm trying to, but like did you ever feel like, oh, he's doing this to other girls, like, and that'd be weird for you?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Because
he would say you're special,
yes,
you're this,
yes.
you're that. I didn't like I would like question it, but not because I like cared, just because like he would say that. But I never really like knew until I really did know.
Yeah.
It was just like some suspicion just by seeing certain interactions between them and stuff like that. It wasn't because I was really like told anything. It was just observing.
Do you mean like interactions like I might have seen at Prince?
Exactly like that. Yes.
Like nothing's like he didn't do anything that should be illegal, but it's like creepy.
It was exactly like that.
Yeah.
That was my point. Like those are the things I would see, like just certain comments, certain conversations, certain touching, certain stuff like that. And even certain things that he would kind of say to me, and in some ways like created like barriers between us to kind of like get us to maybe not be so friendly with each other, which he honestly wasn't successful with that.
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, like we never talked about that stuff, but like we were friends otherwise. So
I mean, who knows? Maybe you didn't talk about that because of that. I don't know. I
don't think any of us. I was never going to talk about it, and I guess I knew the other person was never going to talk. Like I was never going to bring it up to any of them, and they weren't going to bring it up to me. Like that's just kind of just like how it was. Like we were all told like you can't tell, you can't this. And like I said, there was a little bit of those barriers built. So like I'm sure there was not nearly as much trust between us as like we have now, and stuff like that. So
when you started dating Justin, did he know?
I'm like 90% sure he kind of knew. I think I kind of honestly, I think I like made that kind of clear. out of the gate. Like not right out of the gate, but like once we were like more serious.
So you were just like, hey, just so you know, like I was one of the
that, or he knew already. Like it was, I never really
never
like,
an issue.
like told him no.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was never an issue. He's very
Yeah.
Okay, not okay with the situation.
Not even
but
that.
like,
But I think like if he didn't know,
yeah,
and was like he knew of the situation, he knew it could have been you.
Yeah.
Like that would just be like, hey, was like, what was that all about?
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
I don't know.
So once the investigation's like fully on, then do you reach out to the other girl? Like, what was your first interaction with them once it was out there?
So I remember the one girl actually called me. Like I didn't really reach out to them, which is just I didn't know what to say really. But the one girl called me, and she was a little bit older than us too. The other me and the other girl. So she was like, "I'm so proud of you for like telling." She had a bit of a different situation with him than like we did. Like she was very much groomed, but groomed more of like that, like into like this is like my boyfriend kind of like I wasn't really groomed into that kind of like relationship. So I think she viewed the relationship was just a little bit different. So I think she was like glad like finally like this dude has been an asshole for how long, and this is kind of her personality. She's like, I don't know how to explain it, but she's just a little bit more like feisty, I guess you could say, and was like, it's about like, I'm so proud of you, told, like, thank God it's about time. So that was good. And then the other girl
was the older girls, was that still active?
No.
For like years or
it was, I mean, for years, yeah. She dealt with a lot too from him. So she was about 15 whenever I think some stuff started to kind of like it's when he started grooming her. I think she was 15. I don't know how old she was when everything kind of came like to, you know, that like
she was an early adult though.
Yeah.
Young adult.
Yeah. And I don't know the other two girls' stories like in it, like inside and out very well.
Yeah,
I didn't get to sit in on their like when they testified or anything like that. Like I didn't listen to that. So I don't know every single detail about them.
How much of the trial were you there?
All of it.
Whole thing?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I was the preliminary hearing whenever I had to testify. I was there for that. I didn't get to sit, like all the girls were there the same day to testify, but they brought us in like one by one to like give our, so we didn't get to sit in with the other girls. Then there was some continuances, and then it was like a year and a half later. I think it was January 14th is when he was like, we went to like the big courthouse, and they sentenced him to, you know.
Did you give a victim?
I did give a victim impact statement. Yeah.
Did you prepare that, or
yes,
did you just?
That was like, I probably wrote too much, but that was like the time because there was so many things that I like wanted to say to him, you know, for so many years, and just like, so I kind of just like put it all in that, and yeah, and then I kind of just like I said, I did too much. Like I thought way too deep into it, but like I retold like what he did, the kind of person he was, who he was to me, like at that time, you know, like he's a father figure. He was a great, like my coach, like I trusted all that. So I explained all of that. And then obviously like the whole like kind of story of what happened. And then I kind of just like finished it with like we are here and above you now, and like we're gonna do something, like meaning like us at the gym, like I mentioned those guys, like everybody's doing great, like we're gonna be on top, and you are gonna be in a jail cell for the rest of your life. And I told him, I said, I don't want you to die in there. I don't want them to just take your life. I want you to literally rot in there for the rest of your life.
Were you nervous?
Very. It was like unlike any kind of nerve I've ever felt in my entire life.
To face your
like going into whenever like we were going into the room to give my to testify, like people talk about getting in the cage and wanting to run away. Like I can't even tell you what that feels like, because it can never ever compare to that feeling. Like every inch of my body wanted to not do that, to run away, and knowing like, you have to get up there and not only tell like your story, but detail. Like you can't be vague. Like they make you say every word. Yeah, that was the most terrifying moment in my entire life.
This is testifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when I did
Did you cry when you testified?
No.
Oh.
I was very like I just talked. That's all I could do. I couldn't if I let my emotions like I couldn't do it. I had to be like monotone. Like I couldn't do it any other way. I was like probably weird, but like that's the only way I could get through it. I'm like, you just gotta sit here. And that's why I think I wrote so much too, because I had to sit here and I'm just gonna read this paper. Because that's the only way I knew I could like I did get choked up at the end because like that like the what we're gonna do like that makes me emotional. Like
Sure.
everything else is kind of just like I don't know how just
Did you have to fight it back? Like
the
tears, like
the
emotions?
a little bit, yeah. When I was reading the beginning parts and like testifying through and stuff, it was just towards the end where it all started to like settle in. And maybe because I knew this is like the last time I could ever like speak my piece to him, I guess you could say. Like this is the last time that I'll ever get to tell you how I feel about what you did to me. So that's when I was kind of like it like hit me. It was like, you know,
that was probably the first time you spoke to him since you were in the cage with Brandon.
Yeah, in person, yeah. And what was like something that was really hard about this too, and the testifying part is like the entire relationship with him, the text and the sexual part of it never was spoken of in like how we're talking to each other. It was only through text messages. The acts were done very like we didn't speak. Like there was times like we'd be at the gym late and he would like pre-plan like what's gonna happen. Like text me, pre-plan what's gonna happen. Then like obviously like all day long I'm sitting there knowing like this is happening later. I have to ride home with him, whatever. And we would like stay after the gym and he's like, I'll text you when to come into my office. So I would like wait out in the gym and like he would text me and I have to like go like it was like that. It wasn't like
wait, well, what was he doing in the meantime?
Just like if we were finishing up with like practice and like waiting for people to leave or whatever and making sure everybody was out of the gym because he would take me home and pick me up a lot.
And he wouldn't want it to look like it was just you two alone.
You followed him there, yeah, right.
If people just like kind of disappeared out of the gym and you were still there, then it looked
right, yeah, exactly. So that's kind of like he would do that a lot. So I keep getting like off track because I'm just talking about so much stuff. But back to the point about like it was never really spoke of like between me and him. So saying all of those things like in front of him was very like awkward, uncomfortable. Like even when there were like acts were happening, like he would like have me like cover my face and stuff. Like I didn't see anything. Like it was very it was just not normal in any way.
Yeah, well, nothing about the situation is normal, you know. There's no way around it, and like we said, there's no playbook for this kind of thing. But it's very clear, even just sitting here today, like the way you've processed it, the way you're able to talk about it, it's clear that you have a handle on it.
Yeah.
And how have the emotions evolved over the years? Like I'm sure, like you mentioned, the when you testified, how raw and emotional that had to be versus today, you're able to kind of break it down in a little more logical fashion almost.
Yeah. You're saying like how do I feel now or
like how does it change over time?
I think it's just going through the process. Like it made me just harder. And like you know, like after I told like it wasn't over, like that was like the start of it kind of. And I think just really going through all those hard times and the ups and downs, like I had to become better. You know, like it was like a realization that like this is how like, I have so much control over my life. Like I could have controlled this entire situation from happening to me and I made the wrong choice. and doesn't make it my fault by any means, but it's just it's the thought process that I have now. Like if something's not going great, like I can fix it. Like
Mhm.
I can control it. I can do something about it. So just I think going through all of those, like the bad boyfriends and um just some of the choices that I've made, and like I've had like an eating disorder and stuff like that, and just trying to like overcome that stuff and dealing with it and getting through it and being like just I'm just so much of a different I'm a more stronger person now, and I solely believe because it's just because of those moments that I went through.
Mhm. And it's evident in a lot of things you do, and of course, you have fighting and have
Yeah.
always had fighting throughout your life, but for other women maybe experiencing
Yeah.
this, not every woman wants to fight,
No.
you know? What would you recommend? Is it important to get a hobby or something, like, how would you recommend they start to kinda work through it?
Yeah, I definitely think having something to keep your mind a little bit busy, it's a hobby. I'm definitely a huge believer in like exercise in general. It doesn't have to be fighting. It's just my choice of exercise, I guess, and insanity. um but like I think being active really helps just you feel better all around. So I believe in that. But I think any sort of hobby, whether it's like reading a book or you're an artist, like invest your time into that, invest into yourself with that. I think that's one of like not just for this situation, just in general, just to deal with life, like the
Yeah.
struggle. You need that release, that the thing that makes you just like your mind can shut off and kind of just relax. So just
Absolutely.
find that, whatever that is for yourself, find that.
Sure. And I think this is anecdotal to me, but I mean, you hear of similar situations happening in gyms a lot. It seems
Yeah.
to be a place that it happens more
Yeah.
than in average everyday life. What do you think is the reason for that? Like, I'm sure you've thought about that a lot.
Yeah, I think it's kind of an easy place. It's kind of like an easy target in a sense, I guess. And I think it's a coach is such a powerful person. Like and it could be in an amazing way and it can be in a bad way. And I
Mhm.
think it's kind of just not all people are good people. So wrong people, wrong place, wrong time kind of thing. And yeah, I think it's just easy, like it's a male dominant sport with some girls are starting to do it a lot more, and I think that's kind of something to do with it maybe. um I think it's like especially with MMA, it's like such a dominating sport. It's like I guess you're being coached by like a girl's being coached by this man who is supposed to be a killer,
Mhm.
right? Like that's kind of just hard for a woman to deal with and feel safe in that environment. So I could see why the predator would feel it's a easy place to kind of, have access to kids or women or whatever, or even men. This doesn't just happen to women.
Sure. Sure. And I think now, Ryan mentioned earlier your collegiate wrestling
Yeah.
coaching. This is obviously a position in which you can greatly influence the
Yeah.
next generation. Was that intentionally part of it for you? Obviously, you're very qualified,
Yeah.
technically speaking, but
Yeah.
on the leader side with your story, was that a huge appeal for you of getting into this?
Definitely. So I didn't exactly seek my job at Waynesburg out. Like I didn't see that they had a position for it. It was like somebody recommended me, and it was presented to me from Waynesburg theirself pretty much. So in coaching has always been like what I want to do at some point in my future. Like I've always seen myself as a coach at some point, just never really at this time. But I think it is happening exactly how it's supposed to happen. I feel like kind of like God called me here to do this. And, it wasn't an opportunity that was exactly in my cards at the time, but it was just something that I couldn't not do. Like I knew like I'm gonna be able to change lives. Like it's like this is it made so much sense. I just like couldn't turn away from it. So being able to lead the girls and stuff is awesome.
Yeah.
We're getting into our season and stuff now, so we're like just always in the room together building those relationships. So I'm starting to feel like close to them, and we compete this weekend. So I'd I go to war for those girls.
I can't even imagine how good that feels for you.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like, yeah, it's so special. Like I can't put into words. Like I know you probably see the tears in my eyes just sitting here thinking about it.
Well, I mean, it's powerful for you, and I'm sure like not to take it there, but one element of it is that's the position he was in and the way he abused it, and
like,
that's how you feel now. I'm sure thinking of trying to go down that path with one of your girls like makes you want to puke and die.
I can't, and I do think about that, like how, like now that I'm a coach, being like, how could you take advantage of somebody like that? Like I just can't even wrap my head around it. Like, and that's what part of the reason I'm so like I guess I'm drawn to coaching is because at least I know if I'm in the room with them, nothing is happening. Like they are safe. Like they're nobody is gonna, if I can control it, is gonna hurt them in any way. Yeah,
that's such a beautiful thought too. It's such a positive spin from a negative situation, which is kind of the theme of everything here today.
Absolutely.
So that's have people reached out besides obviously the other two girls that were involved in Uniontown, but have other women reached out to you since then, and how do those conversations usually go?
About this my situation specifically, or like their own?
Their own. You helping them through their own, yeah.
Believe it or not too often, which I think just has something to do with it being such a uncomfortable thing. But I definitely have had some girls reach out to me, some girls that were starting to get groomed by Bill whenever we were they were around. And just I feel like people in general, like people that are going through stuff, like to talk to people who've went through stuff. So just not even if it's about like a sexual assault case, just in general, I feel like I can kind of be the friend somebody talks to when like shit's hitting the fan. Like I'm not the friend you call to hang out with on a Friday night, but when shit's getting down, I'm the one you call.
Or if there's a pickup game, 3-on-3 at the Y, like Karli's ready with her shorts.
I agree with that a lot because as I'm now off camera, by the way. I have a face for radio. They
Thank God. Everybody's like, why couldn't he have done that 2 hours ago
on the camera? But like my wife and I experienced the death of a child, and that was in 2008, and we literally could not find peace and the ability to work through it like we could with other parents who had experienced the same loss. And so even being able to like laugh and smile again, it only happened through those relationships, and it became okay to do it there, so then it became okay to do it again. And so that was really having someone who has experienced the same feeling, the same trauma that you have is very much a huge part of recovering from it.
Yeah, for sure. I think having for myself, just having some like the girls that were involved, like to kind of talk to them, like we talked a lot more about stuff after things came out. So like having those girls help me get through it, and it helps me even today. Like the one girl I'm still very, very close with, we talk pretty frequently, and like we kind of just, I don't know, I don't have a relationship like that with anybody else. Like it's almost like we know each other better than other people know us, because we understand like what we went through, what we dealt with. So
yeah, and that's the thing. Like as much as we can talk about it or discuss it, there's no way we can ever fully understand. There's just no way. But you sharing it as openly as you have, like I can't say enough for how amazing you are for doing that, how awesome you've been through all of our questions. And I'm sure there's millions more circling both of our heads, but I mean, the way you've processed it to me is extremely inspiring, to turn something so negative that could have led to suicide, could have led to so many terrible, tragic endings, and you're not letting it do that to you. I think it's the most inspiring message that anybody could deliver in a situation like this. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's not having a victim mindset. Like we're not the victim. We're not the victim. I'm greater than that. I'm greater than the I guess predator. We're greater than all of that. We do not have to stay victim to that forever. That's kind of how I try to think about it. Like, this will not control me for the rest of my life in any way. I think you just have to. That's how you have to think about it. It's like one of the best ways to get through it. That's how I got through it. Just not letting me have a victim mindset.
Yeah.
I love you, and you're a hero, and like, and I feel that way, and I just think so highly of you, and like, I'm so proud of you, and you won your last fight, even though you got an L in the column. That's all BS. Anyone that watched that fight objectively knows that, but like, I just watch you continue to grow in your career and in your faith, and then taking the position at as a college wrestling coach, and just like all these things that you're doing. You are great, and like I just love watching you grow and develop. And I mean, you have a patent in your life, so what? Like, I'll let that one slide, but no, I'm just so proud of you. You're awesome.
Yes.
Of course. Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm sure we'll be in this room again,
Oh, yeah.
or a different room.
Well, is
Hopefully at
there
that point.
anything you wanted to say that you didn't get a chance to with our?
No, I think like one of the biggest things I wanted to get across is just not staying victim to that victim mindset. Not sorry, I'm bad with this. But it's one of the main things is like not being staying a victim to that, in that victim mindset. I think that's the way to let it eat at you forever, to control your life forever. Just we have to get over that, come through that, and be better, be greater, do something with what you went through. Use it to inspire somebody else. Talk to people and be open about it. It's good for you. It's good for them. So
He was waiting on that the entire time, weren't you?
I literally just remembered that there's these buttons.
Unbelievable. And if you find yourself in that victim mindset, as we said earlier, Karli Jo's DMs are open for you. You can reach out to her.
Yep.
You can contact Rain, RAINN, and
.org.
Yep.
And of course, one-on-one counseling is always
Yeah.
available. You can
Yeah.
seek that out. So many avenues to not let it control you, and nobody's going to know better than this woman right here how to help you. So reach out to her. Perfect. All right. We're going to put a bow on this one, I think.
Alrighty, let's
Sweet.
go.
Thanks for coming in,
Yeah,
Karli Jo.
thank you guys. Whew. I was trying not to. It's just honestly, it's so much. It's like hard to remember all of the like steps and like this things in order and like timelines and stuff. That was the hardest thing about testifying, was like because they wanted to know like time, like what day, like what year, like
I don't know how to turn it off.
I'm like, guys,
Yeah.
come on. I'm trying not to remember